invoke Ma Bharati. Amba Navambujajvala Karambuja Chandra Chandrikadambara Charumurti Prakatasputa Bhushana Ratnarochi Rajumbita Digvibhaga Shruti Sukta Vivikta Nija Prabhava Bhavambara Vidhi Visruta Viharini Nan Krupachudu Bharati Nan Krupachudu Bharati. So today's topic of discussion is environmental awareness. For the harm for the environment, it is the human activity that is responsible. The most important thing that environmental awareness is to inform people of the dangers of continuing to harness as much as we currently do from our environment. People need a good understanding of the threats to our earth to fully realize the scale of harm what we are doing. Consequently, about topics like environmental health, sustainable development, global warming, different types of pollutions, and the control to keep our Mother Earth a safe, livable planet. What constitutes the environment? What is the importance of environmental awareness? What is environmental science? How it is related to the environmental awareness? Why environmental science is important in the present day? What are the branches of science concentrating on environmental problems? What are the factors disturbing our environment? How to evaluate the environmental disturbance? What actions are required by humanity to protect the environment and important strategies? Environment is the place where we live in. That is, the area, the village, or the town, or the city, or the state, the country, the world, which comprises of the air, the water, the land, or the soil. The air, essential for the life process, is available from our surroundings. The water available from rivers, underground, rivulets, streams, then supply of water is the water for drinking and daily use. The land and soil comprises of the villages, towns, cities, forests, mountains, etc. These three are essential for the life process of any living being, whether it is human being, animal, or plant. The air for keeping the life through breath, water for keeping the life equilibrium of the body, land or soil for providing the feed for body. If the three are contaminated or polluted, and the life processes are disturbed from normal processes, widespread health problems, survival of the life for the future, of the universe because of greenhouse effect or temperature rise in the universe, depletion of the ozone layer between earth and the sun, they are the disturbances of the environment. Therefore, the emphasis is now concentrated on the environmental effects seriously, and scientists are working to control or keep the environment as clean as possible. For that, a systematic study on the factors responsible for the disturbance or contaminations or pollutants has become important, very important in the modern civilization. Okay. These are the most important pollutions now the humanity facing today in our environment. This is first the air pollution, second one water pollution, third one soil pollution, fourth one solid waste or municipal waste pollution, fifth one is heat pollution, sixth one light pollution, seventh one noise pollution, and the last one the radioactive material pollution. So we will discuss each one of them at length. So environmental science is an interdisciplinary academic field that integrates physical, biological and information sciences. Which includes ecology, biology, physics, chemistry, zoology, mineralogy, oceanography, computer science, geology and geography to study the environmental problems to obtain solutions with an integrated, quantitative and with an interdisciplinary approach for the study of environmental systems. So let us take the air. As the civilization started with fire, burning of wood took place and pollution of the atmosphere with the gases involved in the burning process started in the beginning. But the impact on the atmosphere was very less human activity. If the concentration of these emitted gases influence the life of living beings, pollutants. Subsequently, after industrial revolution, use of coal, mechanization for large-scale production of human utilities, and industrialization paved way for atmospheric pollution and environmental imbalance adequately. Mobility of human beings has become important in the modern civilization and transportation has become a necessity. This gives rise to air pollution drastically. So, what are the limits for these emitted gases to cause pollution? Different government agencies studied in different conditions and framed certain standards for the atmosphere. Our Indian standards for air monitoring are given in table. The atmospheric standards consist of not only the evolved gases but also the particulate matter in the atmosphere. This particulate matter is a very, very important thing. These things have specified for sensitive areas like hospitals, schools, etc., and industrial and populated areas separately, the limits on constant evaluation. If you see the table, these are the pollutants in the air of our surroundings. Like schools, hospitals. Sulfur is maximum allowed is 15 micrograms per meter cube. Sulfur dioxide is 30 micrograms per meter cube. Nitrogen dioxide is 15 micrograms. Particulate matter is 70 micrograms. Inhaling particulate matter is 50 micrograms. Lead is 0.5 micrograms. Carbon monoxide 1 microgram. If it is in the industrial area, the limit can go up to 80 micrograms, 120 micrograms, 80 micrograms nitrogen dioxide, particulate matter 360 micrograms. Micrograms per meter cube. Then inhaling particulate matter is 120 to 150 micrograms. Lead is up to 1 microgram, it is allowed, and carbon monoxide 5 micrograms is allowed. If it is a highly populated areas, sulfur is 60 micrograms, sulfur dioxide is 80 micrograms, particulate matter is 140 micrograms, inhaling particulate matter is 60 micrograms, lead is 0.75 micrograms, carbon monoxide is 2 micrograms. So there are different methods. They are developed by Western countries as well as our own methods. And these, based on those methods, these values can be obtained. So the yearly average means in a year, 104 times the measurements have to be made. So in a year, you have to make the measurements at least 104 times with an interval of 24 hours, and in a week at least 2 times. The Environmental Protection Agency standards. So this EPA is based in New York, and they decide for each material what are the limits. The gas values in the surroundings must be within these standards, especially for public health, plant growth, and protection of properties. If any two consecutive term values exceed the standard value, then constant monitoring is essential. That means if two consecutive values, you have to continuously monitor that area in a continuous manner. Air pollution is monitored in terms of air quality index, which is a computed value of ground level ozone, particulates, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide for a particular time period. So it is monitored at different places and then taken as an average of, or sometimes individually, that is at that particular place, these are the things. So if you see in North India, the data of day for yesterday is Delhi 688. Maximum, it is a very good atmosphere, is good environment is only up to 50. 50 to 100 is the good one. From above 100, you have different stages. 688. Haryana 534. In Delhi Pitampura it is 505. In Loni 499. Haryana 478. Ghaziabad 458. Alipur Delhi 456. Sirsa Haryana 447. So at different places these are the determined values. Similarly in Hyderabad we have 7 locations. The air pollution index is monitored at 7 places. One is at ICRISAT.
Mr. Suryanarayan, 1 minute. Sorry for the interruption. Now, how do we measure this? You see, only 1 or 2 organizations seem to be doing this.
No, I'll tell you that.
Is it possible for colleges, other institutions, local institutions to have small equipment by means of which this can be monitored continuously?
No. See, the problem is here the collection of gas. That is first thing. The collection of the atmospheric gas. For that, you have to have a specific equipment. Then, after collecting
Is
the
it a
gas,
very costly equipment?
yeah, I'm telling you. That's what I'm coming to tell. Then, after collecting the gas, you have to do analysis. That is again an expensive material. The equipment is also an expensive one. It costs not less than 12 to 15 lakhs. So, that's why for Hyderabad, we have about 7 places. They tested 7 places. One is at ICRISAT, then Pasmailaram, Central University, Bolaram, Sanath Nagar, Zoo Park, and US Consulate area. See, because we, in our laboratory, in our department, we did for methane estimation. When the methane is evolved, we have to collect the gas from the atmosphere and that has to be analyzed. Expensive material, expensive equipments.
Now, is there a Mr.
Habitat.
Suryanarayan Garu, is there a possibility of developing some handheld instruments where by means of
low
which,
cost equipment.
you see, it's a very extensive process, which I think, as you said, 15, 20 lakhs.
Yeah.
If we have handheld electronic devices, like let's say BP or sugar.
Yeah. I understood what you are.
Is it possible to do that? That's the point.
That I think is not that easy because these gases have specific detectors. See, suppose nitrous oxide, ozone, sulfur dioxide. They are all with the specific detectors. With the particular detectors. So that detecting system and separating system that costs much. That's why still we are not able to come out to the cheaper equipment in that area.
Okay, please go ahead. Kindly go ahead.
So here I am presenting a data of day before yesterday and today. Change from day before yesterday and today morning, 7 o'clock. The air quality index is 124, whereas today morning it has become to 157. Sorry. From 124, it has gone to 157. Especially the particulate matter of 2.5 microns. From 45 micrograms, it has gone to 154 micrograms.
Is it because of crackers?
Yes, because of all this thing. And particulate matter 10 micrograms, 10 micron diameter. From 90 micrograms, it has gone to 154 micrograms. Ozone is almost the same, 6.8 and 4.0. Nitrous oxide 37.8, but most interesting is NO2 has come down. That means that NO2 was absorbed by these, whatever is the one when you are bursting with phosphorus and all that. I think that got absorbed. SO2 is remained same and carbon monoxide also again it has come down. So these are the two important points one we have to understand. We have to take into consideration. The nitrous oxide and carbon monoxide has reduced, whereas the particulate matter has gone up very much. just.
Suryanarayan garu, you seem to be giving mechanical treatment to an electronic device.
No, what is the problem, with our figures, if I just change it, it is becoming, getting,
Yeah. No, I'm saying it in a lighter way.
yeah, hanging over. That is the thing. It's getting hangover. I don't know why.
Or can you share it to Kamal?
Now it will come.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir,
It's okay. I think there's some. Can you send your presentation? Okay.
Global warming in the universe, water is very much greater in proportion than Earth. Therefore, in global warming, the role of water is also very important. If we take water vapor into account, the human activities contribution is only 0.28%. The human activities contribution is almost 5.53%. So in human activities, agriculture, material production, transportation sector, they are the main contributors for the greenhouse effect. Nitrous oxide, methane, CFCs, they are responsible for ozone depletion and global warming. Simple thing. Actually, the methane emitted by rice fields, this was studied by CSIR throughout the country. From our laboratory, we were the people actually did it. These methane gases were collected in the paddy fields, and that gas was analyzed, and the whole country, what is the contribution of methane from the rice fields were established, and it was clearly mentioned that the methane concentration is increasing during the paddy rice producing periods. At that time, it was very much more. Quantitatively, the emitted gases are indicated in million metric tons. Another way of indicating is like global warming potential. It is the emitted gases capacity to increase the global temperature. For every gas, they have indicated a constant. This potential is in 100 years time period. It is the ratio of the emitted gases in kgs with the kilogram carbon dioxide produced emissions. But this was no longer defined for the gases emitted in complex chemical reactions. This is the index prepared for each year. Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, HFCs, PFC and SFCs. These different gases emitted in USA as global warming potential index that was presented in this table. That is from 1990 to 2000. It shows the range of emission is only except carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide and HFCs, they are almost on par. On par means for a period of 10 years, the content is almost at the 200 kgs here. Then nitrous oxide is about around 100 kgs and HFCs is around 40 kgs, 40 to 42, 45. So the energy producing activities generate 81% CO2, nitrous oxide 5.3%, methane 9.3%, CFC is 2.5%. All other activities emit CO2 only 1.9%. Methane is generated from 4 sources, 3 major and 1 minor. That is, the 3 are energy producing activities, which is 39%. From agriculture, it is 32%. And from waste, it is 28%. So that's what I told in the paddy producing fields, they emit lot of methane. Industrial emission of methane is very, very low. But the agricultural emissions were only for a particular period. That is during the crop grown period only. Another major contributor for methane production is the drilling sites of petroleum and coal. This is the major continuous yearly emissions were there in the petroleum and coal sites. So nitrous oxide generation is mainly from chemical industries, especially in fertilizers, chemicals, drugs and medicines. Chlorofluorogases are generated in the industries and also from our air conditioner systems, and where there is a temperature conversion systems, there we use all these chlorofluorogases. So to control or reduce the emissions, all countries came to an agreement known as Kyoto Protocol and European Emission Allowance Trading Scheme and agreed to keep limits minimum and spend money for that purpose. The atmospheric defining computer software indicated that for global warming, three things are important. One, emissions for solar radiation, emission of carbon dioxide, and methane and nitrous oxide. Another important contributor for global warming is the solar irradiance. This radiation was studied between 1850 to 2000 and concluded that the reactions that are occurring in the solar system and the cosmic ray flux contribute about 30% of global warming. The effects of global warming above the Earth's surface of 10 to 15 kilometers, the troposphere is filled with
Suryanarayan garu, sorry for the interruption. Now, are you saying that the changes that take place in the solar system, they affect 30% of our global warming, which means that we have no control over that?
Yes, we have no control over that.
Isn't it horrendous? I mean, this is a very disturbing factor.
No.
It is made of cosmic changes, isn't it?
Yes. You see, that is because of the erection of this ozone layer.
Because of the
eruption of the ozone layer.
And we are contributing to that ozone layer.
Yes.
Yeah, but then it's not solar, it's man-made.
It is man-made, but that, you see, that is solar is coming, the radiation is coming from the solar, but that is controlled by ozone layer.
I agree, there is no change of the radiation that is coming from sun.
That will not be changing, only because of the eruption or the destruction of the ozone layer, the radiation is increasing.
Which means that it is again man-made. This disruption is man-made.
It is definitely that.
Right. Kindly go ahead.
So this is the the most important. That's why the studies of the radiation between 1850 to 2000, or even now also they are doing it. That shows that the ozone layer depletion is directly proportional to the global warming. That is what we have to note down.
Is there any indication of how much is because of civil aviation?
That data is not available.
Because I think a lot of these flights take off.
Yeah, I understand that.
And the launching of rockets, etc.
Yeah, all those things actually.
Okay, right.
Free radicals allow the ultraviolet radiation sun causing some living organisms nutrition are not in a position to survive. So by global warming, there will be a change in the ratio of earth or land of water, thus influence the pollution causing acid rains, drought, floods, cyclones, etc. Even the the earthquakes they also consider that it is because of the different radiations and different what is called the physical forces occurring in the earth. Then transportation sector has become very
1 minute.
essential
Is
to
it,
civilization.
sorry,
And
Sorry, is
conversion
it-
of fuels to mechanical energy is the lifeline for the transport vehicles. But during the conversion process and during production of petroleum fuel, large number of pollutants are generated which are harmful for the humanity. Therefore, minimization of these pollutants is taking an important step, and different countries adopted different standards for the vehicles based upon these emissions. Europe and America have adopted Euro standards. Euro 1 in 1993, Euro 2 in 1996, Euro 3 in 2000, and Euro 4 from 2005. In India, Bharat 1 was adopted in 2000, Bharat 2 in 2005, Bharat 3 in 2009, and Bharat 4 in 2012. These are the standards they have put for petroleum vehicles. Carbon monoxide, earlier with Euro 1, it was 2.72 grams, and when it comes to Euro 4, they have come down to 1 gram. That means per kilometer, the carbon monoxide emitted should not be more than 1 gram. It should not be more than, yet in Euro 1, it is 0.97, it has come down to 0.1 gram. Down to 0.08 grams by Euro 4. So, they want that each vehicle should be able to control these pollutants up to this level. For that, what you have to do, that is how to convert from one vehicle to the other vehicle, they have given certain methodologies. Similarly, for diesel vehicles, they have given 0.5 grams in Euro 4 and hydrocarbons 0.3 grams and particulate matter is 0.025 grams. So these are all the values obtained by computer simulation of the vehicle driving capacity. But the only problem in difficulties in implementation of these standards is these standards are not implemented throughout the country. They are implemented only in metros and big cities. The vehicles manufactured by old technologies are being used and they are polluting the atmosphere and no action is taken on this. According to the estimates, about 70% of the vehicles are older than the ones with catalytic converters. If these vehicles are fitted with catalytic converters, then only emissions of carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons are reduced. The present diesel vehicles like lorries, vans emit higher levels of particulates, NOx and SO2. These particulates are of calm micron dimension and can easily get into heart during breathing. These particles are also carcinogenic. There are some poisonous metal particles are also present in these emissions. Therefore, the standards have to be fixed for all these particles. In our country, we are not giving importance for the maintenance of the vehicles. Vehicle becomes old, the pollution levels are increasing, but we never bother about the changing of the engine. Therefore, continuous monitoring of the vehicles for pollution limits has to be made mandatory. Under the Motor Vehicle Act 1988, Central Vehicle Regulations of 1989 has no control on the life of the vehicles. Unless the refineries produce the fuel which is in line with the standards of air, the situation does not change. Even now, some refineries produce fuel with sulfur and lead. So, the actions to be taken is to achieve the NOx limits. It is advised to oxidize the hydrocarbons in the exhaust itself and convert them to carbon dioxide or by controlled dosage receptate the hydrocarbons in the exhaust. By keeping onboard diagnostic system near the emission controller, we can determine the irregular behavior. Energy efficiency can be increased. Electronic fuel injection devices and changing or improving the combustion chamber design. Accelerator and retardation time can be minimized. So, to modify the old vehicles from Euro 1 standards, retune the carburetor, to introduce secondary air engine in the engine, to recirculate the exhaust gases, to increase the efficiency of the catalyzer at least 2 or 3 times, to coat the catalyzer with 3 metal layers. If these things are adopted for old vehicles, it can come to the particular standard level vehicle. Next, we have the water pollution. If the quality of water surrounding is reduced, it is called water pollution. The whole universe is surrounded by water, but the water for drinking purpose is very less. Drinking water is available only in the rivers, lakes, and wells. The dissolved oxygen in the water is essential for the survival of living organisms. That is the reason water is called Jivanam, Amrutam by ancient sages. Based on the reports of UNO, the population of the world is around 7.8 billion. 18% do not have safe drinking water. Even among the developed countries, contagious diseases like cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, hepatitis, etc. are occurring. Because of this, every year 1.6 billion people, especially children, are dying. The most important reasons for water pollution are population explosion, industrialization, utilization of river water sources for other economical purposes, changes in agricultural methods, waste products generation at high level, utilization of plastic. Water pollution causes changes in color, bad odor comes, weeds grow, fish, etc. Aquatic animals cannot survive and die. There will be drinking water scarcity. It facilitates the propagation of congenital diseases. Water purification methods like chlorination, filtration, destruction of germs of disease with solar radiation, combined flocculation, and chlorination are some of the methods now used. In addition to these, new membrane filtration has become very popular. Groundwater around Hyderabad, which has a hardness of up to 1000 ppm, that is around 3 times higher than is desirable, is the main source of drinking water. But the increase in the population and consequent increase in demand has led to a decline in not only groundwater but also river and lake levels. This shortage is further exacerbated by inadequately treated effluent discharge from industrial treatment plants, polluting the water sources of the city. These are the acceptable limits, and that means these are the acceptable limits in the absence of alternative source. For drinking water, if there is no other alternative source, you can see the color can go up to 15 as in units. Water, it should be agreeable. Then pH value, it should be near to the neutral, that is between 6.5 to 7. Taste should be agreeable. Turbidity you can go up to 5, and total dissolved solids 2000 milligrams. You can see up to that it is allowed. Usually these are the dissolved materials, usually you get in that. Aluminum, ammonia, anionic detergents, barium, boron, calcium, chloramines, chloride, copper, fluoride, free residual chlorine. If you see the required limits are 0.03 milligrams aluminum, ammonia 0.5 milligrams, anionic detergents 0.2 milligrams, barium 0.7 milligrams, boron 0.5 milligrams. Milligrams is allowed. Chloramines 4 milligrams. Chlorides up to 250 milligrams you can go. Copper 0.05 milligrams. Fluoride only 1 milligram. Chlorine is 0.2 milligrams. Iron 0.3 milligrams. There are different test methods are available. Then magnesium, manganese, minerals, nitrate, phenolic compound, selenium, silver, sulfate, sulfide. The alkali, total alkalinity as calcium carbonate up to 200 milligrams is allowed. Total hardness as calcium carbonate is 200 milligrams. Zinc as 5 milligrams. So, these are the limits for any drinking water which is allowed for human consumption. The toxic substances which are up to acceptable limit is cadmium 0.003 milligrams, cyanide is 0.05 milligrams, lead is 0.01, mercury 0.001, molybdenum 0.07, nickel 0.02. Pesticides, of course, there is a big list of all those pesticides here. They are given specifically for each. And all together, I think it should not be more than 0.05. Then total arsenic is 0.01. Total chromium is 0.05. Trihalometanes are bromoform, chloroform, all those things, not more than 0.1. Then alpha emitters, again 0.1 milligram, beta gram, and then beta emitters also up to 1. Then pesticide residues, I told you these are all the micrograms level. They are given alacor in all those pesticides. Malathion, then chlorpyrifos, poly, it should not be detectable in any 100 ml of the sample. Then comes the municipal solid waste. As per the census of 2011, our country has 7935 cities, 7,935 cities. We have classified them as different classes based on their population. Class 1A above 5 million, that is mega cities. Class 1B 1 million to 5 million metro cities. Class 1 1 lakh to 1 million. Class 2 50,000 to 1 lakh. Class 3 20,000 to 50,000. Lot of waste material is produced from different housing complexes. Commercial establishments like shops, hotels, markets, offices, institutions like hospitals, schools, government offices, new buildings, roads, landscaping, destroyed buildings, municipal services, parks, beaches, water purification centers. The waste material has different constituents like food material, paper, plastic, thick sheets, clothes, leather, garbage, wood, glass, metals, ashes, useless articles, electronic articles, batteries, oils, tires, iron, concrete, mud, drainage, cut leaves and branches, sewage, etc. And if you see the list of cities and the produced solid waste, if you see from this list, Hyderabad is producing almost 4,200 tons per day. Dehradun is 68,000, 6,800. Bangalore 3,700. Ahmedabad 2,300. Hyderabad 4,200. Kanpur 1,600. Kolkata 3,670. So total, the production in our country is almost 50,000, nearly 600 tons per day. And we have so many acts of controlling the solid waste. But finally what we are doing is Hyderabad produces around 4,500 tons of solid waste daily and transported from collection units in Imliban, Yusufghadan, Lower Tangbad to the dump site in Jawahar Nagar. If you go and see that Jawahar Nagar dump yard, you will see hundreds of acres dumped with all the garbage of the whole Hyderabad city. Disposal is managed by the Integrated Solid Waste Management Project, which was started by the GHMC in 2010. Rapid urbanization and increased economic activity has led to the increased industrial waste, air, noise and water pollution, which is regulated by the Telangana Pollution Control Board. The contribution of different sources to air pollution in 2006 was 20 to 50% of vehicles, from a combination of vehicle discharge and road dust, 10 to 30% from industrial discharges, and 3 to 10% from the burning of household rubbish. Deaths resulting from atmospheric particulate matter are estimated at 1,700 to 3,000 people in each year. The city's VIP areas, the Assembly Building, Secretariat, and Telangana Chief Minister's Office have particularly low air quality index ratings, suffering high level of PM 2.5. This I think I will skip off. Next is sound pollution. Central Pollution Control Board has specified limits for the sound levels. In villages, you can go up to 25 to 35 decibels. Then city outskirts, you can go to 30 to 40. City populated areas, you can go up to 35 to 45 decibels. City commercial areas, 40 to 50. Big cities, 45 to 50. 50 to 60. So, the maximum limit is you cannot go above 60 decibels. So, to keep these limits, one has to follow control at the generating system, control at the receivers, isolation at the construction time, planting of trees, so that the humanity will have a healthy life. The sound pollution can be controlled by generating at the controlling the generating system at in the initial stage itself. That is, the sound generating system has to be controlled. Then heat pollution is caused by industries, electricity producing units, especially electricity produced by the thermal systems, material producing machines. These industries use water as a coolant and resend back to the original place. During this process, the water gains a lot of heat and its temperature rises very much, and the internal oxygen level changes, and the living organisms in the water face problem of survival. So deforestation, flow substance on the roads, volcanoes generate very hot lavas and raise the seawater temperature. Thunders are also increase the sea temperature. These therefore have an impact on the living organisms of sea and water. Light pollution. Human-induced artificial lighting is called light pollution. The high-intensity lights, all directional lights, Different spectral ranges lights with high intensity cause wastage of energy, human health, human mental health, environmental disturbance, astronomical impact, nature's natural sky polarization reduction. To reduce the impact, control should be put on these lightings. Similarly, radioactive material pollution. Pollution by radioactive can be caused by two ways. One is natural and the second one is human induced. Natural pollution is four ways. When mining uranium, radon gas is evolved in the atmosphere. It's a generated radium atom along with uranium isotopes spreads it in mountains, sludges and in earth. These radiations are called as background radiation. These can also be generated from cosmic radiation. Third, nuclear radiation stays on Earth. Fourth, uranium, thorium, radium, A40 and C40 stay in lithosphere. Human-induced ones are from medical applications, especially in X-ray, CT scan, gamma ray tests. During nuclear tests, these radiations have a lot of impact on human and living creatures' health. Taken in control conditions so that the damage can be minimized. Of course, in the drug industry, I have taken an example and how to control the emissions. Not only that, it is called atom economy. That is, they reduce the number of byproducts. So that is what is called now as green chemistry. And in that green chemistry, renewable catalysts are also a very important material. So whenever you are using catalysts, usually after the reaction, the catalyst is thrown off. Usually the catalysts are metal compounds. So if you start recycling those catalysts, we can actually reduce a lot of metallic pollution. So in most of the drug industries. That's why we have I just took that drug industry and I gave that some of the important points how to adopt that green chemistry and use the renewable catalysts. So 21st century industrial research is focused on achieving 100% selectivity for the desired product in all industrial processes, whether it is thermal or catalytic process. This can be achieved only one process when a process can be optimized with clean manufacturing without byproducts. This eliminates waste disposal and provide environmental safe, medicinally superior products. This is possible only when green catalyst based chemical processes are practiced. This concept formed the basis for green chemistry, both for greener catalytic processes and catalytic processes for green products. So the greenness evaluation in quantitative terms is based on consumption of resources, consumption of energy, undesirable effects on human beings, safety, physical, chemical, and biological targets in green chemistry are stoichiometry to catalytic reactions, multi to fewer step routes, liquid acid-based, solid acid-based reactions, safer processes, improvements in reaction media, example non-solvents, solid state, water or supercritical media, routes of higher atom utilization on atom economy. These are the basic principles of green chemistry. So we have about 12 principles which cover the green chemistry.